Welcome to the King's Court. If you're joining us for your first time, my name is King Roberto. I'd like to thank you for joining me. I've never felt more ready for a vacation than I did a few days ago. And it's not necessarily a weakness, but it's awareness. You see, I'm a person who is in constant motion in everything that I do, it seems like. In the last couple of weeks, it was really apparent that there was no time for a break, for a rest. You know, around here, there's fences to get built. There's stalls to get built. Seems like there's a meeting every night of the week. And last week there was. Projects are stacking up at work, waiting on permits. Decisions get stacked up on work as we enter tax season. And all of that can really start to pile up on someone. And I definitely have been feeling that lately. Not necessarily the first time I felt that. It's not the last time, I'm sure. But when you hit that point, there's got to be an awareness. My awareness comes from a little acronym that I was taught by Monsignor at church several years ago. And it's HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you're two of those, probably okay to keep chugging, but you need to be aware of what's going on. One of those is just kind of day in the life type stuff. Three of those probably need to figure out what's going on and shy away from any big decisions. And if you're all four, then that is not the time to make any big decisions or drastic decisions because you are probably compromised. And I don't know if I've been all four of those these last few weeks, but definitely been two or three in various times. Usually I'm the anchor, you know. I move first more often than not in my circle, in my life. And it's just the way I am. It's the way I've been for as long as I can remember. You know, sitting still is not my forte. Stillness is not something I am good at. I'm not sure why, other than I credit my parents on my upbringing, that there's no time for sleep. You know, there's no time for being lazy and lounging around the house. There's always something to do. And if there's something to do, then it's time to get after it. And that's my MO most of the time. It's go, go, go. Usually, when I'm the one doing the first move, depending on where I'm at, I expect a reaction. I expect if I'm going somewhere, there's people that are usually going with me, and I expect them to keep up. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But the ones that do, I respect that. I respect the speed of which people operate and try to surround myself with people who are like-minded individuals for that reason. I don't wait very long. You know, if there's something that needs a decision made, I'll think about it, maybe overnight on a good night. But a decision is something that I am not afraid to make. And that constant motion, that constant, demand of movement and motion and being on the go is kind of, that's normal. You know, that's everyday life. And maybe your life is like that. Maybe it's not. It's hard to relate for me to somebody who's not like that all the time. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, well, what do? You hang out, and there's definitely some truth to that, because I know that when I was raising my kids, that constant motion had a price, right? The price that I paid from that was while I was building the houses, while I was, coaching the rec league teams and doing everything else. That constant motion took me away from being in a particular moment. I had a good partner for many years, and a better partner after that one, who were supportive during those times, and they help fill in the gaps. But there's definitely a price to pay when you're in that constant motion like that. My patience is usually the first thing that starts to slip. And people notice it. I notice it. But it's that drive and determination to keep going that keeps pushing through. And as those hungry, angry, lonely, tired versions start to set in, when that patience is gone, usually the patience goes when I'm starting to get tired. If I'm feeling lonely or disconnected at home, which happens when it's on the go, constant go, there's that loneliness that sets in. And I was reading something the other day that people are not made to be alone. But even when you retire, you spend your entire life working. You spend your entire life building a career. This particular story was about Mr. Fix-It. Anything that needed to be done, he could fix it. And that's what he did. He was an electrician by trade. But if something around the house needed to be done, if somebody needed something fixed that was a friend, they would call this guy and he would go fix it. Well, he retired one day. And after a week or so of retirement, he didn't go into work. And the relationship started feeling the pains of that, because he realized that that person wasn't necessarily who he was. He had built a career and a life of being somebody, but he didn't really feel like he was that person. And that's, a scary thought when you think about it, of being somebody who is in that constant motion, that go mood, that let's get it done phase of life that I'm in. I'm in my goal, approaching my golden years, right? 50s. That's the golden years, or it was. Maybe it's the 60s now, but I am at the point in my life where I should be reaping the rewards of what I've sown. And so, when I get to these points that I feel like, man, I need a vacation, I become a little bit less aware of my surroundings and maybe what people are feeling or doing around me, and less empathy. And I feel that, and I know when I'm getting there, and I just need to pause and reset, recalibrate sometimes. And even at home around here, the pace of life, taking that intentional moment to rest is hard for me. It feels, if I don't reset, like that, I'm still strong, but I'm not as sharp. And that's what I lose when I'm not as sharp as I am normally on a good day, when the mental capacity is there. That has an effect. The strength is still there. The physical strength is there, but the mental part can be a little bit gone sometimes when I'm feeling that run down. It's kind of similar to driving a car, maintaining your car. That car, when that engine and it runs hard, it needs maintenance. It's not because the engine's weak. It's just the mechanics of the engine. You got to do your oil change. You got to change the spark plugs, give it a tune-up. And we have to do that for ourselves, for our own well-being. Sometimes I feel, and my feelings are my feelings, but sometimes I feel like I am the spine of the sword. The sword is got the hilt, it's got the tip, it's got the blade, and it's got the handle, and all of these parts that make up a sword, right? And the one thing that is keeping it together and strong is that blade, that spine on the sword. And for it to stay effective, it has to be sharpened once in a while. It's kind of like that when you need that reset. And I know everybody gets it, and I know everybody feels it. I'm just talking about it on a podcast. My friends don't talk to me about that kind of stuff. We don't talk about that kind of stuff. And it's a guy thing. I'm positive it's a guy thing, because no guy wants to go out there and say, man, I need a vacation. Man, I'm feeling ran down. Man, I'm feeling exhausted, or anything like that. Most people take that as a sign of weakness, right? Being able to admit that, though, I don't think that's weakness. I think that's strength. Being able, taking that step back, looking in the man in the mirror and saying, buddy, you need a rest. Buddy, you need a half a day off. And for me, it's not, I say I need a vacation, but really, I need a night off. And I needed a night off. And the last few weeks have been just crazy, but my nights off are usually my Friday nights, but it wasn't this time. It made it to a Sunday night, and there's something about that night off, because for me, it's on the back porch around a campfire, whether it's the real fire or the propane fire pit, and it's usually with a cigar and some kind of beverage. Usually has alcohol in it, because I drink one night a week for most weeks, and this week it just happened to be after a Sunday night that kind of kicked in. It helps me reset, but that was after, the real reset for me came Sunday morning when I went to church and got good with the man upstairs, right? I mean, you talk about stillness. There's a lot of pausing in a Catholic Mass. There's a lot of kneeling, a lot of prayers that are said, but there are moments of silence where it's just you and your thoughts, and God is listening to you. That's where it kind of started for me on this one, on that reset button. I went to church, came home feeling pretty good, worked all day long, kind of feeling a little bit ran down. Jumped on the back porch in the evening, sat in the hot tub for half hour and took care of myself, right? Said, I need a break. I need a reset. I need to pause and get myself back on the right side of things. Because let's face it, this court doesn't need a frantic king. It needs a focused one. And when you kind of break that down, who needs that focused person? Family, for sure. When I'm running on empty, they're the first ones who suffer. They get all the grouchiness, they get all the cross looks, they get all the the negative Nancy stuff, right? Leave me alone. I'm hungry, tired, mad about work. And that's pretty much the status quo for the last couple weeks here. Hungry, get home after work, tired, maybe even a little bit lonely because we're just passing ships in the night. So yeah, I'm hitting on 3 or 4 of those on my beware vibe, right? The projects at work, the projects around the house, everything starts to suffer when that rest is needed, that reset is needed. It's less focused, it's less productive, it's less efficient. And I am a person who very much likes efficient movement. Myself and my colleagues and people around me. But when that patience is short, when that fuse is short, it's a quick temper and everybody kind of suffers, and there's really nothing that anybody can do at that point except for me. They don't need my exhaustion. They need my clarity. They need my focus. They need the best version of me that I can be. And I pray for that all the time. I pray for a lot of different things, but one of my constant prayers is that I am made to be the best version of me that I can be. Pray for that every weekend, every day. Every weekend for sure at a minimum. And most days, I will say. Not every day because I'm not the most righteous, prayerful person on the planet. That's a lot of P's there in a row, so please pair with me. Yeah, that's there you go. There's your dad joke for this one. So, but yeah, that's the focus there is what makes it all, kind of tie together. And so the rest and the stillness is something that we find where I go for that also is our camping trips. That trip down to Joshua Tree that got canceled was supposed to be my reset. It was a planned break, and we've got a couple of those coming up, and I've got a planned break coming up with Sammy here in a couple of weeks on a camping trip, which honest to goodness, I don't know that's going to be much of a reset, but we're going to try. It's always fun to get out in the trailer and hit the road and see where adventure takes us. But yeah, that's my story this week. Just needing that break, that reset, ready for our vacation. I got to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to our trip coming up in May. So anyways, let's get to a royal decree. And this week, we're not going to really talk about it too much. We're just going to let it stand on its own. Strength without rest becomes strain. Strength without rest becomes strain. So motion builds, rest preserves, and I plan on continuing to do both. This is King Roberto, and I am saying goodbye from the podcast this week, and I hope to hear you in the emails or on Instagram, X, Twitter, however you feel like reaching out. Say hello. Maybe come join on the show one of these days. Goodbye.